By all accounts, Microsoft's Surface Pro 7 is an amazing device with a few problems. Let's see if it's actually worth its relatively high price tag though. First, a message from this video's sponsor, NordPass. Made by the makers of NordVPN, it is a password manager with all of the features you'd expect. They have autofill from their browser extensions and desktop apps, they have a password generator so you're secure on every site, and a 30-day money-back guarantee too, so you can check them out at the link in the description or nordpass.com/TechteamGB and get 50% off with an extra free month included too. Now, unlike its baby brother, the Pro X that I reviewed very recently, check the video out up there, the Pro 7 has a fully loaded spec. My model is the i7 with the 1075G7 and it has 16 gigs of RAM, it has 256 gig of storage, although you can option it all the way up to a terabyte if you prefer. It has a full copy of Windows 10, a full x86 copy of Windows 10 I should add, and even has a reasonable amount of graphics power with the Iris Plus core that's built in too. Now, in terms of pricing, it's actually, at least my model, is the same price as my Surface Pro X model that I have here, which, considering this is a full version of Windows and actually a lot more powerful overall, seems like a lot better value proposition. So let's run you through the good bits. First is the display. This is still a pretty weird aspect ratio in the kind of consumer space, as it's a 3:2 aspect ratio. Now, the resolution that then offers, being a 12.3 inch screen, I'm going to have to read this, is 2736 by 1824. Certainly not a standard resolution, but it's still actually pretty high resolution for the size of the display and is certainly high enough pixel density for me to not be bothered by it, and so it's a very nice display to look at. Now, when it comes to colors, it's actually pretty impressive there too. The panel was able to reproduce basically 100% of the sRGB spectrum, which is very good for even mild color sensitive work, and especially if you are, say, a creative professional that's on the go, this kind of device might be almost perfect for you. Now, the i7 I have in this model here actually has a decent amount of horsepower considering just how tiny and slim this machine is. In terms of its Cinebench score, you're looking at around about 1700 points, with its single-threaded results being around about 430, which is actually pretty good. It actually beats a Ryzen 2700X in single-threaded, and while it's only a quad-core with 8 threads, it's certainly not going to, beat any of the 6 or 8 core, even laptop parts that you can see in the 9750H, for example, but it's still a decent amount of horsepower considering its size. And I should add that Cinebench run saw the CPU turbo to its basically maximum clock speed of around 3.5 GHz and stay there the whole time, but if you're doing anything longer than a short Cinebench render, for example rendering out in Blender, then you'll see the CPU regularly throttle itself down to about 2.5 GHz or a reasonable amount of reduction in performance. Now, speaking of Blender, it took 9 minutes and 43 seconds to run the BMW Blender test, and that gives it about half the performance of a desktop 9700KF, which makes sense considering it's almost exactly half the core count. And when it comes to a little gaming on the side, of course this isn't a gaming machine, but it can run esports titles like CSGO at 1920 by 1200 on low settings, and can even get over 100 FPS, so that's actually pretty impressive if you did, say, want to take this with you and maybe do a little bit of CSGO or Rocket League just if you have a spare minute. What's less nice about this performance though is the heat and noise it creates. This thing regularly spins up the fans to almost full speed, even just while browsing the internet, and it can take a significant amount of time for it to shut up again. I actually had to restart filming because it was literally just sitting like this on the desktop with basically nothing open and was running at almost full speed. I'll include a clip of an audio test for you to see roughly how loud this gets sort of while I'm talking through, but suffice to say it gets reasonably loud, certainly not, kind of gaming laptop jet taking off loud, but annoying enough, especially if you're just, web browsing on it or something like that, and you don't really understand why it's turboing up. Now, on the plus side, the added thickness that they've used for the venting basically all the way around the top and sides of the device does mean that you get a little bit more I/O than the baby brother Pro X, in that you get one USB Type-A port, one USB Type-C port, a headphone jack, and a Surface Connect port. Still not great, but at least there's a Type A on there. Now that Surface Connect port is the port you would use for charging. It still uses the sort of magnetic charger that I still find to be far too weak and regularly falls out when you are even mildly moving the device or mildly moving the cable. And so I would definitely like to see that improved in a sort of second, or I suppose Surface Pro 8 generation, but I suppose magnetic charging is still kind of nice to have. Now the keyboard type cover is also magnetic too. It's actually pretty easy to remove when you want to, and can even be set in a couple of different positions. If you're a complete animal, you can have it laying flat on the desk or on your lap, or if you're more sensible, then you can have it attached to the front of the screen ever so slightly, which gives you a slightly more reclined and actually a bit more stable typing position that, if you can't tell by my sarcasm, is the one I would recommend you use. Now actually typing on it is pretty good. It's a fairly well laid out, spaced out keyboard with a pretty nice overall tactile feel, and honestly I have no problems recommending this as a casual or even office typing experience. When it comes to the trackpad that's down below it, that's not quite as good. It's actually pretty small for especially the amount of extra free real estate that's already down here, but it tracks well and has all the multi-touch gestures you would expect. And of course, since the display is also touchscreen, that kind of makes up for it too. Which I suppose brings us nicely onto the pen, which I should add both the keyboard and the pen are optional, sold separately extras that you can purchase for £160 and £100 respectively, which does make them pretty expensive, but in the grand scheme of Apple pencils, certainly not the most expensive things in the world. With that said, the pen is actually pretty nice to use. Of course, on trend with this device, it attaches magnetically to the left side, and while it's strong enough that it generally holds itself there, if you ever try and put this thing in a bag of sorts, it will fall off and you will have a hard time finding it, but at least it has somewhere to go. Of course, the Surface Pro X now has a slim pen that sort of slots down at the bottom and actually gets hidden inside the keyboard type cover, which would be nice to see in a sort of version, I suppose, 8 of this, but otherwise the pen is good to use. There's a button on the back that lets you open the whiteboard app, or I think can also let you do a full screen screenshot, and it's actually pretty nice to draw on. Of course, the kickstand allows you to have the surface in any sort of level you want. I personally prefer drawing on it almost fully flat, although you can draw it, draw or write notes or whatever else in any orientation you like. Moving on to audio, the speakers that are built in are actually pretty decent. Of course, they lack bass as you'd expect, but are reasonably clear at even higher volumes, so that's always good to see. Now, the Pro 7 supposedly has studio microphones here, which are placed either side of the webcam, and they're actually not too bad. They do pick up a lot of background noise, and they're certainly not, studio quality microphones, but they're a lot better than, well, a lot of similar devices. The same can be said about the webcam. It's certainly not as good as your smartphone, but it's still pretty decent. It's 1080p, which is a better resolution than most devices like this, and it's placed right up the top, so it's in a good position too, even if there's a lot of motion blur and the frame rate isn't quite right. So as you can see, this device makes so much more sense than the Pro X here, considering it's actually the same price for the same sort of setup, and you get a much more functional machine. You get a machine that you can run anything on. If you want to run Photoshop or Premiere Pro or whatever else to do some video or photo editing while you're on the go, go for it. If you want to drop some designs while you're on the train home or type up some meeting notes, you can do that too. It's incredibly portable, it has pretty decent battery life, and is actually a pretty good machine overall. Now, of course, it's not my ideal machine. It's not really a machine for me. I'd much rather have an Acer Concept D5 Pro with a lot more graphics horsepower to be able to, say, do proper video editing or 3D modeling or whatever. But for a creative professional who's regularly on the go, this seems like a fantastic machine. Of course, most of these machines are bought by businesses, and I can see this being a fantastic option for, giving to a team of creative professionals or even just general office workers, especially if they're on the go. So yeah, overall, I'm pretty happy to recommend it. Now, with that said, those are my thoughts, and I would definitely love to hear yours in the comments down below. I suspect a lot of you will be on the more gamer side of things, and this device won't necessarily be of interest to you, but would it be interesting to you as a kind of office worker kind of thing? Or if you are a creative professional, is this a device you would pick up yourself, or is there something else you would recommend? Let me know in those comments down below. Now, if you want to see more videos like this one every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, hit that subscribe button with the bell notification notification icon. If you want to check out the Surface Pro 7, I'll leave a link to Microsoft's website in the description down below, and hopefully you'll be able to see pricing when and where you watch this. And there's a load of other links in the description down below too if you want to support the channel in other ways than just watching these videos and subscribing. There's stuff like Amazon and Overclockers UK affiliate links that don't cost you anything to use but massively help me out when you use them, or stuff like merch or hoodies or t-shirts like this one, or a load of other cool designs, and even Patreon for cool rewards to support me directly, and stuff like Streamlabs OBS if you want to start streaming too. Otherwise, that is pretty much it. Feel free to check out some other videos over there. Do check out the Surface Pro X review up in the cards, and that is pretty much it. Like I said, if you've got any questions, leave those in the comments down below, and otherwise we'll see you all in the next video.